Welcome to Our Town, a 30-minute podcast brought to you by Best Bark Communications, a small but fierce client-centered marketing company powered by decades of experience and well-established business networks.
This is Andy Ackershausen, and this is Our Town, and we're so delighted to have one of the premier priests in our town, in our area, and a man who's a Monsignor, Father John Enzler. He's the president of and the CEO of Catholic Charities, a very dear friend, and a local. He grew up in our town, and even though it was Bethesda, John, it's part of our town. We're so happy to have you here.
Absolutely. It was great to be here, Andy. And I would tell you, when I was in Iowa going to college, I always said I was from Washington. And people said, "You're from Bethesda." I said, "That's Washington."
Yes, it is.
For me, it was all part of the same family. Now, in Iowa, they said, "Well, they didn't get that," but no, Bethesda, Chevy Chase, Rockville, McLean, this is all our town.
We preach that, John, so much to our town now. It's out in Loudoun County now. It's way down in Virginia. It's Anne Arundel. To me, Anne Arundel's closer to us than it is to Baltimore. But our town is so big now, maybe 6 million people that we consider in our town.
That's right. So it's wonderful to think that we have this huge community of people with so many different cities, if you will, pockets of individualism, pockets of community, but we're all part of one big city.
Isn't it wonderful? Washington.
We follow the Redskins. We follow the Nats. We follow the Caps. It's all one town, basically. In fact, I'll tell you a story about, so in the Catholic Church, there are two dioceses here. There's Washington on this side of the river and Arlington. I think that was a huge mistake.
It should have been one diocese.
Because think about it. It's really, I mean, there are other papers, but it's the Washington Post and the Washington Times and the sports teams. We're all part of this one town. And yet, we have different, in terms of the church, you've got the Arlington side and the Washington side, different bishops, different cardinals. We should all be one town.
That is a shame, because I know what it means that we have a different leader in Arlington than we do in Maryland, and that's a shame. But John, your family is Bethesda bound, and you were born and raised in Bethesda.
So my dad's from Iowa.
Is that right?
My mom's from D.C. My mom grew up right by Grant Circle. So a long time.
I know Grant.
They met. Actually, my dad came to college at Catholic University from Iowa, from Dubuque, Iowa. They met when they were playing tennis over at 16th and Kennedy, and they met there. They fell in love. They dated for a while, and then married. A little bit of time outside of town where my dad was a teacher for a while, but then got a job with the federal government as a speechwriter at agriculture. Worked there for 32 years. And this was our home. This is our home.
This is our town.
Right.
Now, you mentioned tennis. That's where you got your tennis ability, from your mom?
Well, actually, my dad more. My mom. Dad was a pretty good tennis player.
My mom, very good player.
My mom was liked to play, but my dad was a pretty good player.
I know you sometimes wear your tennis clothes to church so you can get out on those courts quickly.
Well, underneath the alb, you can't tell. As long as you can't say it. I have to change my shoes, but otherwise I'm in. And that, Andy, you're laughing. I'm serious. I've done it.
I believe it.
I've done it.
And your family's got to be sensational. You're one of 13. That's just a good Catholic family, obviously.
I have the best family. I have 8 sisters and 4 brothers.
Oh, boy.
I have 5 sisters first, so I'm the first boy. Think
yeah.
about the fact when that little boy was born, how my father was so happy to have a little boy. And my sisters always said I was spoiled. They teased me. They teased me, and I was. I was. But really, it was about a young boy who was finally able to bring my father a lot of joy. And my dad and I were inseparable. We were together all the time. So much so that when I was 4 and 5 years old, already, my dad went to church every day. He went to Mass every day as a Catholic. It's very unusual. People go Sundays, not every day. My dad went every day. I was going to church with my dad when I was 5 years old.
Is that right?
I couldn't go to communion yet. Why? Because I love the church? No. I love the sermons, definitely not the sermons. What I love? I love to be with my dad.
Oh, absolutely.
I was with my dad.
To hold his hand.
It's only half an hour service, but I was with my dad.
Was that at Blessed Sacrament?
It was actually Our Lady of Lourdes, Bethesda.
Oh, yeah, that's the first one.
Blessed Sacrament and Lourdes were big rivals back then in football and basketball. But I was from the lower half, Lady of Lourdes.
The neighborhoods changed dramatically, did they not?
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing what's happening.
Sacrament.
Blessed Sacrament, frankly, stayed more tight because it's
Chevy Chase.
Chevy Chase, older homes, and
Right.
people. I was a pastor there, Blessed Sacrament, so a lot of the
that.
a lot of the families, their kids bought their parents' houses or moved into them. So that's kept the same. Bethesda's changed. It's
Dramatically.
Commercial, restaurants.
High rise.
Unbelievable.
Condo Canyon.
That's right.
And all around the old Lady of Lourdes is high rise now.
Where I served papers, Washington Star, I basically delivered papers in Washington Post. I had all those big high rises. They were single houses. I served them all.
Oh, it was all that.
Yeah.
And did your whole family then participate in the what Chevy Chase and
we were,
Lady of
think
Lourdes?
about this. You have 13 of us growing up in 19-year span.
It's almost as big as the Haleys.
Well, the Hale was too big for us, but but we basically I would say we were all over Bethesda. If you knew one of the Enzlers, you knew my sister, my younger brother, you knew me, and I knew them. So and today, as a priest in Washington, it gives me all of these contacts. Oh, I went to school with your sister Jean. I went to school with your brother Tom. It's amazing. People say, I know your name. Are you a brother to? It's fun. It's fun.
Oh yeah, and then I see here you went to Mount St. Mary's. You went to St. John's College.
Right.
Is that pretty much the family wanted you to go to St. John's?
Actually, I was interested in Gonzaga and St. John's. I went to St. John's. My 4 brothers followed me at St. John's, so 5 of us went to St. John's.
Did you wear uniforms? Were
Absolutely.
You a Johnny?
Back then, it was ROTC, junior ROTC, and we wore
Was it
uniforms.
gray?
It was the gray, yeah.
Yeah,
Back
we
then.
call them postal workers.
Now, why would you say that?
St. John's.
Because everybody did.
My group all went to Gonzaga, but I went to Eastern because we couldn't afford Catholic school.
Well, basically, St. John's been good for you.
It was great. But I know about St. John's and Gonzaga, and then Mount St. Mary's.
Yeah. Mount St. Mary's was my seminary, so
Yes.
I went there for studies to be a priest.
Well, didn't they have a college degree too at Mount St.
Yeah,
Mary's?
but I went actually back to where my dad's from, Dolores College, small Catholic school in Iowa. Back there for college, and there decided I should pursue this idea of the priesthood. It was from there, and back at Mount St. Mary's.
Well, Mount St. Mary's is a fabulous school, a fabulous place to go to school. It's almost part of Washington,
Yes.
but it's still up in the mountains. Emmitsburg.
Yeah, people, I think, like the fact it's 60 miles from the Beltway.
Yeah.
It's not very far, but you got enough to be a little bit away from the action, but not too far from getting back home.
Well, I see so many things, John, that you did that I'm so impressed by. But why is it that you decided to join the priesthood when you had this, suburban upbringing, that you didn't get into the automobile business or the car business or restaurant or something? You followed your heart and your brain to the priest.
I'll tell 2 quick stories. One about my dad. When I was about 8 years old, one day my dad and I was with him, as I said earlier, going to church. My sisters were with us, and we were going to go to church. And we walked out of the house, get in the car. My dad doesn't quite get in the car because the man's walking down the street towards him, and he stops to talk to him. He was a stranger. In fact, he was an African-American man, which was not that familiar to me in Bethesda back then. My dad stops to talk to him. And next thing I know, I see my dad take his coat off and give him his coat. And I'm like, what's happening? What's going on? He went back inside. We hadn't quite left yet.
And you were 8?
I was 7, 8 years old. Got another coat and came back outside. I said, Dad, you gave that guy your coat? Yeah. Why? He was cold. But you gave him your coat. He was cold. So for me, I would say in my DNA, way back as a kid, you learn to give back. You learn to serve. You learn to help other people. You try to say yes, not no. So that was in my DNA. Now the important story that's kind of a fun story. I worked for Eugene McCarthy, Senator McCarthy.
Oh, yeah.
I worked on the Hill for him. And the first summer I worked in the Senate reception room, graduate from St. John's. I'm going to go out to Dolores College. Before I leave, basically, before I'm going to school, I get a call from his administrative assistant. I'd worked for a summer and McCarthy's assistant said to me, John, the senators talked to me. You've been accepted at Georgetown. This was like on August 20th, like today. I said, I didn't apply to Georgetown. I said, you've been accepted. He said, and you'll go to school by working for us for the next 4 years. I said, well, this is crazy. I said, no, I'm going to go to Iowa. I mean, Loris, number 1 on the scale, Georgetown, number 10 on the scale. I said, I'm going to go to Loris. I'd never quite understood that decision. because I think later on about, so I was interested in politics, interested in working on the Hill.
Oh my God, yes,
working on the Hill. So I realized that McCarthy ran for office 3 years later for president. Remember? He ran for
absolutely.
And I would have been in his staff. I'd have been probably an advanced man, and say he was going to. I would have taken a year off of school.
Remember vividly.
I would have had a huge opportunity to be involved in those things, and for some reason, I said no. And now I know why. I think God had touched my heart in a way that I didn't even see. And if I'd been on the Hill, if I'd been at Georgetown, I might be a Jesuit priest, or I might be a politician. But I wouldn't be a Dawson priest, I think, because the experience would be different. So I think...
Well, and your dad is part of that decision also, of course.
Absolutely.
So you got to be pleased.
Well, his example. Nobody pushed me at all. Nobody...
John,
I was encouraged.
That's an incredible story. And we'll be right back, and we'll take a break here, John. And you just told me, that's why we have Our Town. I hope people will realize what Janice and I are trying to do. Is that people like you are so important to this community. Many things they don't know about you. Now they're going to, I hope.
Our Town with Andy Ockershausen.
Are you retired or soon will be? Is your will up to date? Don't want to leave a mess for your family to clean up. I'm attorney Mike Collins, the guy who sends you those invitations to my estate planning seminar. I'll teach you how to save taxes, avoid probate, protect your heirs from lawsuits, bankruptcy, even the divorce court. Keep your money in your family with our innovative Reservoir Trust. Watch the mail for your invitation. Tuition's free when you register online at MikeCollins.com. That's MikeCollins.com.
You're listening to Our Town with Andy Ockershausen.
We're back here in Our Town with Monsignor John Enzler, who has been near and dear to many people, and particularly to Janice and I. But, John, we're so delighted that you went away to school, but you came back here, and what you have done with Catholic Charities is world-class, and what you do with all your charity work. Charity is your life, and we're so happy to be part of it.
Well, I am so blessed to be able to help other people. You know, you think about it, you're either a giver or a taker. I'm a giver. And so I see some takers, and you put them in a room together. The takers aren't nearly as happy as the givers. The givers are happy people. They're the ones who feel good about their lives. Takers are trying to find something else to take. Givers are, what else can I do? It's just the great feeling of saying I've given my best. Is nothing like it for me. My life is blessed beyond measure because of that.
And it continues. It never ends.
That's right.
You gave up your parish to assume this enormous responsibility with Catholic Charities.
I had no idea, frankly, when I was asked to take this job. So Catholic Charities in Washington takes care of D.C. and the counties, Montgomery, Prince George's, Charles, Calvert, St. Mary's. Another Catholic Charities takes care of across the river.
That's
okay,
Virginia.
so a different one. That's okay. But we take care of all that. I had no idea that we'd serve 120,000 people a year. I had no idea I have 900 employees.
And you're an insider too, but you didn't know it was that big.
And I had no idea, basically, that our budget would be now $90 million a year. I mean, this is a big operation. And basically, I'm a priest. I'm just a priest. I'm not a businessman. I'm not a social worker. And the cardinal said, John, I need somebody to take this job who can help me to really expand it in an area.
Did they give you a choice?
Always have a choice.
No.
It's like
they knew.
Did Janice have a choice when you asked her? Basically, it's like this. It's just like this subtle thing, like don't say no.
Well, I know that. Who requested you? The cardinal.
Cardinal Wuerl, yes, Cardinal Wuerl.
Well, he made the right choice. It was quite obvious that he knew what he was doing. And the Catholic Charities, to me now, is so enormous because of your work. I'd heard about it my whole life. Being raised at Holy Comforter is not exactly charity, as you know, but. I didn't realize how huge it is.
It is.
And the people they serve.
That's right. So Cardinal saw an opportunity, and I saw as well. One simple thing that I think we weren't doing. So Catholic Charities across the country, there's a lot of government help with these things. So I have $37 million of my 95 is government assistance, which is great. It's contracts to do work. But we weren't doing, and we missed a big boat here. We weren't using our parishes. We have 140 parishes throughout this community, and every parish is now becoming a service center.
People in the parish.
You serve the community where you are. So now I have 140 new sites. I already had 48 sites. Now I got 140 new sites. These are sites we can say, let's get this it could be work with people with addiction, work with people who are abused, work with people who are immigrants. It could be legal issues. It could be food. It could be shelter. Every parish doing something. Now, we're not there yet. We started about 5 years ago. We've got now 50, 10 a year. 5 years, we'll have 100. 100 parishes, and we have 100 different places, all doing something. They do it. They pick out what they want to do.
In their community, right?
In their community, right where they are, and we support them. It's a partnership. It's great.
And that's really getting down to the grassroots too, John.
Exactly.
Now, I thought that you and the Cardinal and the whole city did a marvelous job for the Pope last year when he came. No, I can't believe it's a year.
It's
ago.
a year and a month.
I can't believe it.
A month from yesterday. It's going to be. It's 11 months ago.
What a great thing that was for our city.
It was.
And I recall the Catholic Charities luncheon,
right,
in front of St. Patrick's, and it was bedlam because as soon as the Pope arrived, everybody left the table.
Exactly. Well, think about this: the Pope left Congress, the Hill.
Yeah.
With Senate and Congress, the Speaker of the House, and he left there.
That was his address to Congress.
He left his address there, and rather than having lunch there, he came back to our town.
That's right.
To spend time in the city with people who were a little less fortunate and in need. And if you saw any pictures of that, you did see it, I'm sure. It was phenomenal. Just what you said. He came out. He was supposed to come out the door and do a blessing. He went right by the microphone into the crowd, and the crowd swarmed. And we said to him, "What about a prayer?" He just, it was a quick sign of the cross. He didn't do a prayer. He just said, "Okay, that's enough of the prayer. Let's talk." He
blessed them.
It was unbelievable.
John, we were mesmerized. Unfortunately, we weren't invited, but several of our friends were. I know Sherry Doggett was sitting right up there and said it was so inspiring that he's just a man of the people.
He was.
He's a different kind of Pope, and it works.
It's all about for him taking care. See, he says very clearly it's about service. He says to priests, he says, get out of your rectories. He says, go into the streets, go into the peripheries, make a difference. He said, no. He said to priests, go make a mess. Go make a mess. Meaning basically get out there and get your hands dirty. Smell like sheep, he said to priests. Smell like sheep. Get dirty. Do the work. I love it. I love it.
John, we always quote a lady who wrote in the Cleveland Plain Dealer. She was almost 100 years old. That her philosophy of life, one of the things that was in that list was get up, get dressed, and get out.
Yep.
No matter what the age is. That's what he's telling the priest, too. Get up, get dressed, and get out of the parish. So, John, what is it you look forward to for Catholic Charities? I mean, it's getting so enormous now, but you're involving the parishes. Right. That's the first time.
Right. Well, in this area, I think pretty much across the country, to tell you the truth, but in this for sure. I think what I really look forward to is this. I think I've realized over the last maybe a couple of years now, I've been doing this work, that we do really good work. We feed people, we clothe people, but are we helping people transition from poverty to stability? And I think the issue is we don't have enough social workers, what I would call navigators. Somebody who can say, like you and Janice, and you could do this. You could be, I will mentor this person. It's not rocket science. It's like how to do a checkbook. It's like, good example. Mary Bowser recently said to a group of us, she said, I got 20 women came to me. I got them all vouchers for apartments. And then they came back and said, now what do we do, Miss Mayor? And she was upset by that. I mean, a little peeved by that. And we said, Mayor, they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to, they need a caseworker, a navigator, a social worker. So one of my big goals is to try to find a way, and I work with Catholic University on this and Carroll High School to get young people through the classes and actually hopefully find a way to let them do service for us for 4 years. We'll pay their education to be a master's in social work. But if we do that, you have to give us back 3 or 4 years of service in this community, in our town.
Right,
in our town, helping people who need basically a leg up.
That's one. John, we relate to that. Janice has a young lady that she's mentoring now and doing that with, leading her through. She's living in a home. Yep. I
know that person. Janice has told me about her. Yeah,
Winnie, she's fabulous,
and it's hard work. It's hard work.
Janice is doing it. She's got the big heart, John. Believe me.
It's hard work, but it's so important.
And Janice also had the big heart and got me involved with your specialty of Don Bosco Cristo Rey.
That's right.
And what they have done, it works. Yeah. Those kids work, and I'm so pleased with what I'm hearing and seeing with Don Bosco.
I heard yesterday something we haven't told you yet. Yesterday to me, I heard that of our graduates, 10-year-old school, we've had 5 or 6 graduating classes. Right now, 84% of those youngsters in college have either graduated or on the path to graduate. The national average is 50% of all going to college, and in that type of where they come from, it's 20%. This school is absolutely phenomenal.
It is really phenomenal. That's what it just blows my mind.
So we've been saying every kid's got to college. That's spectacular. How about 84% will graduate from college? Wow. I mean, you should be so proud of your help you give it there. This is unbelievable what you've done there.
I'm proud of Jenny. I'm proud of our town. I mean, it's such a big part, even though it's in Tacoma Park. It's our town. And I'm so proud of Don Bosco.
And those kids
John Enzler.
And those kids come from 26 different zip codes. So our town, those kids are coming from 26 different zip codes in our town to go to one school in Tacoma Park to go to college. And to be often the first one in their family to graduate from, go to college and to graduate from college. You all together, we're doing a great thing.
Well, I knew I'd trigger some passion out of you with that one, but we get with the same thing when we talk to people, and we try to get support for Don Bosco Cristo Rey. We're going to take a break now, John, and we'll be right back and talk more about John Enzler and other things he's involved in. And this is our town, Andy Ockershausen.
Hi, Tony Sybil here to tell everybody about our wonderful restaurants at Washington Harbor. Tony and Joe's, the best seafood in the city. Nick's Riverside Grill, wonderful chops and steaks. Wonderful views of the Kennedy Center, Roosevelt Island, the Roslyn skyline. Spectacular. 2 bars outside right on the water. Fabulous food. For dinner reservations, call 202-944-4545. It's really a great experience. We'll see you down at Tony and Joe's or Nick's Riverside Grill.
Our Town, brought to you by Best Bart Communications.
It's Andy Ockershausen. This is Our Town, and we're speaking with the Most Reverend Monsignor John Enzler, a local guy that grew up and stayed in our town. And we're so glad, John, and we're so glad that you had a chance to introduce me to my wife or something that got us all together. I don't know the story, but I want you to tell it.
Do you remember this? So I knew Jance's parents very well. They were in my church. And one day...
District
Heights, Mount Calvary. They invited me to come to lunch with them over at the Andrews Air Force Base at the Officers Club. And I was over there, and in walks this beautiful young woman with this handsome guy. I didn't know who you were. Andy, and she was first time. I knew your name, so I knew you from the radio. I didn't know Jance's name, but I saw you right then, and then you married a couple years later. So that's the first time we met. You forgot that story, but I remember it because you were a character then. You're a character now.
I can't help it, John. It's my Catholic background.
And I love it.
At Holy Comfort.
And I love it.
I used to run the Chuck-a-Luck stand, when they spin the wheel, and 2 for a dime, 3 for a quarter.
All those bazaars, all those fairs.
We made money with the carnival in the summer.
Right.
So, John, what's in your bucket list? I know you're a world traveler. A world with our dear friend, you made Guido Adelphio in that business. And what's on your bucket list?
Well, I'm actually going with Guido and Marianne in about a week or so. I'm actually going to Mother Teresa's canonization. That's not with Guido. I'm going to meet him over there, and I'm going to go from there to Portugal and to Spain on a cruise with them with 20 other people. And I'm leaving in just about
we didn't know about this.
Well, I wish you could have gone with us. It's been great.
Oh my!
It's going to be great.
Where is this? All in Rome is where?
Well, Rome will be the canonization at the Vatican. That's going to be on the 1st the 4th of September, and then after I leave from there to go to Portugal, and then I go from there too.
Now, do you go as a parish priest or a head of Catholic Charities? Or you go as a citizen?
Well, I go as a parish priest, but I don't know if you know the story. I spent a month in Calcutta after Mother died, working with her sisters.
I did not know that.
And working with the poor, and it's again a big influence on me.
Is that 20 years ago?
That's about 20 years ago, right? But it basically,
and you stayed there for a month.
I stayed there for a month. I lived across the street from the Mother House. I saw more people in that 1 month dying on the streets than I've ever seen in Washington in 1 month, and I saw more people in a home for the dying called Caligot, which she founded. I was holding people's hands or touching them probably 20 people in a month I saw. And I've been a priest for 43 years. I've never had that many experiences.
What an experience,
It was unbelievable.
What city was she in? Calcutta?
She was Calcutta, yes. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And so I have a particular love for her.
It's your heart.
Devotion to her. And I in fact, she's part of my vocation, too, part of the service and the idea that you give back and serve. And I took 3 seminarians with me, three young guys studying to be priests, took them with me. And we spent a month there, and I was kind of mentoring them, but also I did mass every day.
What an experience that must have been.
It was great.
My!
It was great.
Well, yeah, and then she's still a world famous icon, and she's been dead for 20 years. Isn't that amazing? It is to me.
She's about 5'4", and she
was she Indian?
Yes, actually no. She's I don't remember. Albanian. She's Albanian. And she was on a bus one day. She was a school teacher. And she got this inspiration. I'm supposed to leave this within a vocation and go off and help the poor. And she got permission to do so. And she would pick people off the streets. And all her goal was to help them have a dignified death, which is what we do at Catholic Charities, give people dignity. Give them dignity every day.
What an image she has around the world. And it's just so important.
And she was in our town, 3 or 4 times. She was here.
Is that right?
She spoke at Gonzaga's graduation.
I remember that.
She founded a home near Blessed Sacrament for women who had babies, and she was also. I met her years ago, basically because my parents had some friends who knew her from Calcutta. I met her in their home, so she's been here a number of times.
Well, that whole life was dedicated to help. You're talking about that, John, and Janice, because of my Janice, we live our lives that way. She's convinced me the more you give, the more you get back. And that's true with your time and your ideas and your thoughts. We used to run our radio station based upon that. If you give to our town, it comes back in many different ways.
This town here is have big donors, big contributors, and lots of people. I'm involved with lots of fundraising.
I know you
and
are.
I would tell you at Catholic Charities, at the Archdiocese, and Don Bosco Cristo Rey, once people understand the need and understand the story, they will give, and they will give generously. Our town's a very generous town.
Like I said, John, I'm glad you're not in the sales business. When I was in radio, you'd have owned us. but it's so nice to know that all these things are happening. Now, where else you're going to go? I know you've been in a lot of trips you've been to Israel a lot with Guido, correct?
I've been 6, 7, about 10 times to Israel, I think, over the years. I'm going to go to Australia sometime in the future. I think maybe in 2018. I've never been to Australia.
Yeah, you got to see it in New Zealand.
And New Zealand. I'm going to go over there sometime.
Well, how about does the Cardinal? I know Guido took the Cardinal and a bunch of people to Florence, I guess, in Rome.
Right. So
he's a regular.
So Guido does a lot of trips for basically Bethesda Travel. We're working about trips that involve canonization or involve maybe a cardinal's elevation. And he's done those for the diocese as well. He's done a great job.
I know he really is devoted and really helps, and I know he does. I had a call about somebody from Hyattsville called me yesterday about the Cardinals. What do they call the Cardinals Appeal? Cardinals Appeal.
Don't forget to give.
I gave him Janice's number. I said you must have had the wrong number. But I thought that was in around Christmas time.
Well, you must not have given yet because they're reminding you.
Calling from Hyattsville, I said I don't think the Cardinal ever goes to Hyattsville.
No, that's actually where our offices are.
Does he live there?
Our main offices are right on Eastern Avenue, which
know it quite well.
which is the edge of D.C.
Right,
our town, but the edge of D.C.
Now, does the Cardinal live out there?
No, he actually lives in the old Mackin High School. We had we had a building there that basically was not being used much, and they actually put him on a floor where he has basically they took out it was an old storage area, made it into his apartment.
They used to have a gym where guys I know used to play basketball.
Exactly. Well, he's in that same complex.
But they closed the school, correct?
Exactly.
No Mackins.
But now there's a great program for people with Latinos there. Okay.
Well, we want to thank you again, John, for everything you do. This Bud's for you. One of the things that I was so happy to see that you're involved in, and I didn't realize. Let me read it again, John. That you're serving 15 boards, 20 boards. You've won 15 prestigious honors and awards, and now you can add one to your list as the star of our town, and we're so delighted to have you. And thank you for all you do, John.
All of those
You're
awards
a terrific guy.
mean nothing compared to the friendships that we share together. So thank you so much for being my friend.
It's all about
Thank you.
friendship and giving.
Yes, it
and
is.
I got all this from Janice, I'll admit it. And when you give, you get back. So thank you, Father John Enzler. And this has been Our Town. And this is Andy Ockershausen.
God bless our town. That's right.
You've been listening to Our Town Season 1 with your host, Andy Ockershausen. New Our Town podcast episodes are released each Tuesday and Thursday. We welcome your comments and suggestions on how you like the show or who you'd like to hear from next. Catch us on Facebook at Our Town DC or visit our website at OurTownDC.com. Our special thanks to WMAL Radio in Washington, D.C. for hosting our podcasts.